Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
This is an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water. Trust me, I'm like a smart person. I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius. I had the best words. Tolerate it. I know words. Mike Pounds. I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation. But there's no better word than stupid. Anonymous, really anonymous. I'm very highly educated. One of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water. I had the best words. God bless the United States.
Around the nation, TYT Nation, Jeff Walder here with you. Welcome to the show. It's Monday, the start of a brand new week, full of new and strange horrors. I was going to say strange and wonderful horrors, but there's nothing strange and wonderful. Well, nothing wonderful about them anyway. So I'm in a little bit of a weird mood because I am deeply lacking in sleep. And so this should be fun. This should be like kind of like a low energy Jeb Bush,
Please clap.
kind of show. So, or it's going to turn out to be really, really odd. So, either way, you're looking at either some fun mess ups, or just in general weirdness. So, welcome to the show. That's what you should come to expect from the show, as well as, of course, biting commentary and interesting stories. So, hey, lots of fun all around, right? And interesting stuff. Okay, so anyway, hopefully everybody had a good weekend. I didn't. I got stung in the I got stung in the face by an insect. So I'm hoping that I think all the swelling went away, but boy did that suck. So hopefully everybody had a better weekend than that. Yeah, I just throw out random shit that happened to me in the weekend because, that's what I do here. All right, anyway, new stuff, story stuff. We're going to talk about, of course, coronavirus, major stuff here today, of course, as usual. We have more coronavirus cases, and it's even pissing some people off overseas that are allies. We'll talk about that. We've got Donald Trump versus Fox News once again. The breakup. I wonder who's going to get custody of Lou Dobbs. We've got Donald Trump retweeting conspiracy theorists, and the doctors have had enough. They're not happy about this. They're not happy. We also have a former Republican staffer for DHS, the person who actually had replaced John Kelly for a short time. No, not John Kelly. But she was actually acting DHS director before being replaced by Kirstjen Nielsen. So I'm going to get that right. Oh, damn. And then, sorry, just reacting to something I saw in the chat. The next housing crisis as well. So we're going to talk about that. Who gets custody of Ivanka? Well, of course, Donald Trump. For obvious reasons. All right, anyway. So, yeah, we got an interesting show here. We're going to have a little bit of fun. We'll talk about some, of course, disaster as usual, as always. Yeah. So I just want to say I was stung over 180 times once. I was standing on oh, Jesus. Don't recommend it. No, I don't. I also second that non-recommendation. So, wow. Not fun. Okay, anyway. You guys in the chat, you're great. You guys give me life, especially when I feel like death. So, all right. Anyway, I guess we'll start out with the first story here. One of my favorite places, actually, Japan, is not well. They're not happy. Not happy about our presence there. So let's dive in. The governor of Okinawa, Japan, is not happy about the presence of U.S. troops carrying and spreading COVID-19. In fact, he went on the record going after the Pentagon after dozens of Marines stationed on the island tested positive for coronavirus. So now, this is Denny Tamaki, who was, like I said, the governor of Okinawa, and he had a press conference on Saturday that said, look, Okinawans are shocked by the surge in cases among American Marines that were stationed on the island. He said, it is extremely regrettable that the infections are rapidly spreading among U.S. personnel when we Okinawans are doing our utmost to contain the infections. We now have strong doubts that the U.S. military has taken adequate disease prevention measures. So before I get into the details, look, there's been tension between the U.S. presence on Okinawa for quite some time and the citizenry of that island and our whole, basically our whole, I'm trying not to say occupation, right? But it sort of is, you know what I mean? We've been there since World War II. And so we've got bases there. And so a lot of people are not happy about us having bases. And look, I will also concur on that. And I agree. And so, yeah, I don't think we should have a lot of bases all over the world. Not anymore. They're not necessary. But anyway, okay, let's get to the details here, get to the numbers of how many Marines are infected. The U.S. Marine Corps recently reported 94 confirmed cases of COVID-19 infections since July 7th at the Marine Corps Air Station Futenma and Camp Hansen. To put it in context, right, of how big of a deal this is. Because we look at this, we look at 94 here in America and like, so what? That's like one neighborhood block in Florida. I mean, come on, 94. But like, you got to kind of look at it as like a comparison between the United States and Japan when it comes to mass shootings, for example, another horrible statistic. We had mass shootings here in America almost every month until we locked down because of COVID. And so, well, again, mass shootings all the time here in America. Shooting deaths, what was it, like 30,000 or something like that? I don't quite remember the numbers off the top of my head. However, we got a problem with mass shootings. Big problem. Japan does not have a problem with mass shootings. Japan does not have a problem with gun violence. It's very, very rare, actually, to happen there. And so when you make that comparison between America with a gun violence problem and America with a coronavirus problem, it kind of helps to put it in perspective because Okinawa itself, the prefecture, has reported just 153 coronavirus cases since February. Again, putting it in context, there are 1.4 million people who live in Okinawa and just a total of 153 known coronavirus cases, whereas we have about 20,000 troops stationed in Okinawa, and of that, there were 94 cases. So that's over half that number of cases in the American bases versus the entire prefecture. So it's kind of disastrous. Like, there seems to be a little bit of a problem. Like maybe people in the government not taking this seriously, not adequately protecting our troops, and even some of them, of course, not taking the virus seriously as well, as we've seen all over the country, with Americans just not taking this virus seriously at all. And that unfortunately puts a lot of people at risk, puts our service members at risk, the ones who do take it seriously. And it also, of course, puts people in Okinawa at risk. And so that led to Japanese newspaper Asahi Shimbun reporting on Saturday that local officials were concerned about a sudden spike of infections because he saw many U.S. military service members wandering around outside bases on July 4th. And so they see, interestingly enough, they now see Americans like, oh my God, you're outside your bases. Danger. The Americans are the ones who are dangerous. That's where we're at. Now, Mayor Masaharu Noguni of Cotton, Okinawa, not sure if I said that right, but said this: "We've raised a level of warning because we believe that infections are already spreading within our community." And of course, look, they take this virus very seriously in Japan. Everybody wears a mask. They do the social distancing as much as possible, given that it is a small island, which is very densely packed. They still try to do their best, and they've actually done a really good job at containing the coronavirus. Unlike America, because when you compare it to America, we are, we're number one. We're number one. First for infections and first for coronavirus deaths, followed by Brazil, and then you've got Japan basically at the bottom. South Korea. Look, they're used to wearing masks. They're actually also used to being a community and caring about others. Where in America, that seems to be a foreign concept among some people. So, anyway, it's so sad to see, right? Nobody has trust or faith in us anymore. And now, like, most of the world sees America as a threat. And it's because, unfortunately, we are the threat. We are the virus. And look, while the rest of the world is battling and winning in places, in New Zealand, for example, has no more COVID cases, that zero. They're able to lift all their restrictions. You know why? Because they actually did take it seriously. And they did do, aggressive contact tracing and quarantining, and they wore masks and they did the social distancing. They did everything that you're supposed to do, and they got rid of the virus. Now they're going to be able to actually start to open up. We're still opening up anyway, despite the fact that we haven't done anything about the virus. We just decided that we're bored and we're just going to open up anyway. Screw it. Open up the country. We'll see what happens. No, that's okay. That there's sacrifices for the economy. That's the way that we see these things. And the rest of the world is looking at us like we're monsters. And I guess we deserve it. We deserve it. And so America right now, we are bathing in ignorance. And they see it. And look, the fish rots from the head down, right? Donald Trump, he is the face of ignorance. So now, of course, we're going to get people that are going to say, well, if you don't like Trump, if you don't like America, you should leave. Well, the irony here is basically every other country no longer accepts our visas. They have blocked America from travel, basically. There are very few countries now that will accept people. And even the ones who were, the ones who do, they'll make us go through a 14-day quarantine period before we can even get into the country. And so look at the irony, right? I mean, what's going to happen? Well, we're going to become undocumented immigrants in other countries to escape COVID-19. The irony of that situation is just not, it's not lost on me. in some way, I guess Donald Trump did actually fulfill one of his campaign promises. He built a wall around the United States. But unfortunately, it may not be a physical wall, but it's a wall of sorts where nobody wants to come in. And at this point, none of us can actually leave. There's more. More to the irony, right? Now, what's interesting is Donald Trump and I actually do share one policy position. I know it's kind of crazy, right? And before you flip out, I think you'll find that this is reasonable. He actually also wants to get all our troops out of all the other countries. That includes Japan. I do too. Japan, not happy with our presence, as the New York Times reports. Quote, the new COVID cases in Okinawa are a new strain in relations between the military and the local government, where the presence of American bases dating to the end of World War II has been an ongoing source of friction. Citizens have long complained of noise, crime, and aircraft incidents, and have repeatedly questioned why nearly half of all the 55,000 American troops in Japan, which include personnel from old military branches, are stationed on Okinawa. Probably because they won't let us anywhere else. Tamanari Kiyuna, a worker at a noodle shop, told the Times that he is scared by the surge of coronavirus infections among U.S. troops. Quote, we're very careful, wearing masks, washing hands, and sanitizing. I want them to disclose information. They are Americans, but they are staying in Okinawa, Japan. Okinawans or the Japanese people have a right to know. And I agree with that. That makes sense. They're bringing noise. They're bringing crime. They've got disease. I guess we got to keep them out of the country until we can figure out what the hell is going on. Those Americans, we got to keep them out of the country. Understand that this is how we are being viewed by the rest of the world. We are being viewed as backwards, as ignorant, as decadent, and now just stupid and diseased. And it really, at this point, I don't blame them, because in this country, this is exactly what's going on. And we have leadership that reflects, and I understand, this is being driven by a small minority of the American people, right? And so understand, most Americans are not stupid, right? We don't fit that stereotype, but there is a very loud section of this country that does. And in this country, our system is incentivized to float those people at the top. And they get voted into office because of a deeply dysfunctional, corrupt political system and a mainstream media, a corporate funded media that happens to legitimize it. Again, Donald Trump wouldn't be where he was at if he didn't get billions of dollars of free media coverage from the mainstream media that now, of course, is against him. Now, if we want to actually change the world's perception of us, well, we're going to actually have to start doing what makes a country great, which involves embracing science, reason, facts, as well as love and empathy for our fellow human beings. And that starts with each and every one of us. All right. Most people here are good people. All right. So let's go to the fish that's rotting, our rotten fish president. President Donald Trump's campaign is a train wreck, and he's addressing it by attacking his allies in true Trumpian fashion. So now, President went on a little bit of a Twitter storm on Monday morning at Fox News. This is after binging Fox and Friends, which is ironic. He said this: so hard to watch Fox News anymore. They're working so hard against the people, viewers that got them there. Their contributors are a disaster and all over the place. The radical left has scared Fox into submission, just like they have so many others. Sad, but we win. Let me just address something real quick, right, on that. They're working so hard against the people, the viewers that got them there. Dude, you are Fox News' number one viewer. I'm just saying. All right. Oh, man. Imagine if the left actually had that kind of power to change the media, to reshape the biggest cable news channel in the country, to reach millions of viewers with leftism. Imagine. Oh, that'd be great. Unfortunately, we don't have that kind of reach. We don't have that kind of power in this country. The left has essentially been disarmed, which is sad. But anyway, in reality, what's Fox News doing? Well, Fox News, as I've reported before, they've taken a little bit of a mixed bag approach to COVID-19. There are some hosts like Jeanine Pirro and Sean Hannity that are like, oh, masks are great. And then you also have Tucker Carlson. Yeah. So what we have is the Republican establishment, congressional Republicans, the moneyed class, who have realized that Donald Trump is an electoral disaster. The big money is not backing Donald Trump or his allies in Congress. In fact, it's got a lot of Republicans incredibly nervous. In fact, there's a report in Politico, which was a warning that was shown to lawmakers last month that, quote, painted a grim picture of the GOP's long-running problem. Republican senators and challengers lagged behind Democrats by a collective $30 million in the first quarter of 2020. So now understand, like, money is what matters to the establishment, okay? So the idea of whether or not you can attract big money corporate donors to your side, to them is like, that's everything. That's everything that matters to them. And so when one side or the other is unable to raise large sums of money from corporate America, that sets off alarm bells. Like, oh my God. Oh, Donald Trump and the Republicans are not raising all these sorts of corporate donations? Oh no, they're in big, big trouble. Let me tell you. But look, there's a little bit of truth to that. I mean, although big money does matter, it matters a lot less in these big elections where really it's the media. It's the media with that free, basically free advertising and in the form of, free media coverage and political ads. And so nonetheless, that's got them concerned because, oh my God, we're not raising enough money. So that also means the donors are backing Democrats. To me, that's also a big problem, right? Because I don't like the fact that the Democrats are taking big donor and big corporate money, because then they're going to serve the big donors and big corporations. But what's important here, and the takeaway, is that the big donors are basically betting on Trump and Republicans to get wiped out in this next election. And so what they're doing is that they're saying, we're going to back the people that are going to win. So we're going to pump them full of money so that they will still do the stuff that we want them to do, and that we're not associated with Donald Trump, who is a loser, basically, or is going to be a loser. So I got to understand how that works. So now, that fear, by the way, the fear of Republicans getting wiped out electorally is coming from, I think, the Murdoch family, again, with the big donors. And so you see the changes being pushed at Fox, at least when it comes to some hosts of their shows. Sean Hannity, as I said, Jeanine Pirro, Steve Doocy, all talking about how, hey, masks. You got to wear the masks. They work. And that counteracts their programming that they have done before, where they, let me put it nicely, they casted some doubt about the efficacy of wearing face masks and doing the social distancing and all that stuff. And so, well, now they're very, very concerned because the American people overwhelmingly do support wearing masks, and they do support social distancing. They also support, by an overwhelming margin, over 50% say, let's shut down the economy again in order to combat coronavirus. This is something that the American people are incredibly worried about. And yes, they're also worried about the economy, which is why, again, majority of people say, let's do a UBI. Let's do some of these policies that will help the American people as we lock down to combat this virus. The Republican Party has not taken that position. They took the position of a one-time $1,200 check, which was obviously not enough. And they're basically refusing to do anything else, even though McConnell has started to come around to one more $1,200 check. Oh, well, golly gee, how great, how kind and magnanimous of you, Mr. McConnell, Mr. Turtle Man, for allowing us to go broke a little bit slower as we don't shut down the economy, as we force kids back to school, which kids, of course, will become super spreaders of the virus. And yeah, I mean, are they trying to wipe out their own base? I mean, this makes me wonder, like, yes, maybe they are trying to wipe out their own base and then take as many of the rest of us as they can with them. I don't know what the end game of this is. It's not helping the economy. It's not helping anybody to deny the coronavirus. And yet, here we are. So anyway, as far as electoral politics is concerned, well, you've got the polls. The polls are what's triggering Donald Trump. Look, we don't know exactly what segment on Fox News triggered the president into tweeting this, but we can only assume it involved reporting on Donald Trump's disastrous polling numbers. For example, independents. He's basically lost independents. A lot of independent voters who voted for him last time are not going in this direction this time. You also have his approval rating, which is basically in the toilet. 56% of Americans disapprove of the job the president is doing. 41% approve on coronavirus alone. 56% disapprove of his handling of the pandemic. He is a walking disaster, and everyone knows it. But if you report on the reality, oh, no. Unacceptable. I don't like facts. I don't like polls, fake news, radical left. I mean, look, everything is the fault of the radical left or whatever with this guy. Again, you can just go back to his 4th of July speech when it was nothing but divisive rhetoric against what he calls the radical left. It's amazing. It's amazing. So, I mean, look, this guy, he's a baby. He's a dangerous narcissist. We've got over 50,000 coronavirus cases in a single day. Florida shattered all records with over 15,000 cases in a single day. A single day. Arizona, Texas, Florida, they're all running out of hospital beds. And this guy is tweeting unhinged conspiracy theories. It's amazing. And it's all because Trump is a sad, pathetic little snowflake of a man who cannot handle the truth. And he's going to keep denying reality, even if it kills us. Sad. Shit. Moving on. The former host of Love Connection is getting slammed on social media after posting an unhinged conspiracy theory about COVID-19 and President Trump, because of course. Now, claiming that he is sick of it, the 79-year-old former host, Chuck Woolery, tweeted that the most dangerous lies are the ones about COVID-19. Oh, this should be interesting. Everyone is lying. The CDC, the media, the Democrats, our doctors. Not all, but most that we are told to trust. I think it's all about the election and keeping the economy from coming back, which is about the election. You really think that there's a conspiracy involving millions of people, right? All the other countries, millions of doctors, all out there saying, oh, no, COVID, yeah, it's real, when it's actually not. Like, you believe that. Insanity. Complete and utter insanity. You know what? There is nothing more that I would like than to not be living in the middle of a pandemic as our economy implodes. You know what? It turns out it kind of sucks. To think that there is any person on this planet that thinks, oh, no, here's what we're going to do. We're going to make the economy explode and put all these people in danger of losing their homes and, all these businesses shuttering, even businesses that we love, right, and that we like to frequent are shutting down. We're going to do all this because of electoral politics. You think most Americans actually care about electoral politics? We live in a country where, I believe, 40% of the public doesn't vote? 40% of eligible voters? Are you kidding me? Seriously? Look, I know you're not going to listen, right? The MAGA guys, if you're even watching. But guess what? Not everything is about Donald Trump. I know it seems weird. But I think had Donald Trump actually handled this virus like a competent person, then, his approval ratings would actually be a lot higher. Because look, before all of this happened, Joe Biden was actually facing a difficult election prospect. I know, at least in my estimation, because Joe Biden, of course, is a very unexciting candidate and offers very, very little change. However, botching coronavirus, botching the response to Black Lives Matter, the death of George Floyd, all of that has led to Donald Trump's approval ratings being even more garbage. And so that's it. Donald Trump's a train wreck. Over 140,000 people have died from this virus, and many more will. And so you've got America that's basically crying out for somebody else, anybody else. A freaking ham sandwich could run this country better than Donald Trump. But Woolery, look, when it comes to Woolery, he's not dumb because he's a conservative. No, he's a conservative because he's dumb. Simple as that. And he's doing this country and the economy an incredible disservice by spreading unhinged conspiracy theories about coronavirus. So now you have actual doctors out there that have had enough. They're fed up. They're on the front lines of this thing, and they're tired of it. And they're speaking out. For example, here's the director of global health and emergency medicine at Columbia. Quote, "We're not lying. It's actually really horrible to see people die from COVID-19. And it's not about the election. It's actually still about the dying thing. And it's preventable. P.S. The economy only comes back when we manage COVID. P.S.S. I'm also sick of it." We're all sick of it. None of us want to be locked down. None of us want to be on unemployment benefits. No. We want the economy to be strong. We want people to have good paying jobs. We want, we don't want this. We don't want what's going on. Unfortunately, terrible leadership, failed leadership, has got us in the position where COVID is lasting even longer than it had to, as well as the economic damage from COVID-19. We are all sick of it. It's ridiculous to say otherwise. All right, there's more. This is a Columbia virologist. Dr. Angela Rasmussen says, "Oh my God, shut up, dating game guy." I mean, you couldn't really put it any better, really. Professor Peter Hotez, MD, said that POTUS retweeted this nonsense system. Number one, he lacks interest in slowing or halting COVID-19. Yep. Number two, the strategy is to continue deflecting. First, blame China, then blame the World Health Organization, now blame the scientists themselves. And three, we need to seek a branch of government still willing or able to lead a federal response. Well, look, there is none. I mean, the Republicans, all the Republicans, again, just looking at the Senate, right? We already have bills that are, that have been passed by the Democrat-controlled House in order to address, and I think that they're mild. I think we need to go further, in guaranteeing a UBI and a rent and mortgage moratorium until the crisis is over. They're not even going that far. But still, those bills have zero chance of passing Congress. Why? Because of Republicans, and of course, Donald Trump would veto them. And so without Republican support, we couldn't get it past a presidential veto. And so we're basically stuck here. We're stuck here. And we're in a terrible situation, and there's no way out. And it's the politicians that are preventing us from getting to have a way out, from being able to recover the economy. And it's not the Democratic politicians. No, it's the Republicans. Anyway, one more here. Fred Wellman says, "I worked in a COVID field hospital in New York City. This man is a fucking idiot." Agreed. Jeremy Faust, MD, says, "Breaking, the host of Love Connection wants you to die." Well, to him that you are a sacrifice he is willing to make. Derek Koss, MD, says, "It's interesting what makes each of us sick. For the people I know, it's often COVID-19 itself, not the doctors teaching people how to deal with this new reality. But you keep doing you, Chuck." Emily Deans, MD, also says, "It's hard to explain the exhaustion and despair that my friends and patients working in the ICU and ED and other COVID wards feel when they see pictures like this. Wow, wouldn't it be great if this were a fake conspiracy of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of healthcare workers and scientists and sick folks and dead people to hurt Trump rather than, hear me out, a virus?" Man, you know what? That would be pretty amazing. For one, to have a conspiracy so large that somehow nobody lets it slip. I mean, I can't, you can't go and tell a room full of people a secret without somebody blabbing. And yet somehow this conspiracy is so tight among the doctor community, right, and all the people affected, that somehow nobody let it slip. Wow. Yeah, not believable at all. Unbelievable. It is amazing, though, that people like Chuck are more valued than doctors, right? This guy's a know-nothing entertainer who spouts unhinged conspiracy theories on Twitter. How is he more respected? How does he have more of a following, more of a presence in our culture than doctors and teachers and healthcare workers? How? There is something fundamentally broken with that. Like, hey, I like to be entertained, but holy shit, maybe we should actually listen to the people who are experts, who have spent years and years of hard work and study, instead of the musings of a dude whose life achievement is running a dating game show. I'm just saying, I think that our country might be a lot better and would be doing a lot better if we actually did put our trust in science, medicine, and education instead of ignorance and celebrity. All right. I'm going to take a quick break here. I'm going to come back. We got more stories. I'm going to thank some patrons as well. Patreon.com/TYT read some super chats, all that stuff. So stay here. Coming back. Quick break. See you in a couple minutes around the nation.
Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
Mike Pounds.
Wait, you're getting nervous, man.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
Welcome back to the show, Around the Nation, right here, TWD Nation. Jeff Waldorf here with you. Okay, so got some super chats here. Izzy SJ has super chat, says showing my support. Well, thank you, Izzy SJ. Actually, you're one of our newest channel members that I wanted to thank today. So thank you for that. And thank you for becoming a member and supporting independent progressive media. That means a lot to us. Means a lot to me. And so thank you. Other channel member is Lloyd West. So thank you, Lloyd and Izzy. You guys are amazing. So thank you. Patrons, Trisha Gullard and Karen Brindle. Also, thank you to those two as well. So a couple more super chats here, and we'll get back to the stories. Sarge Tech says, here's the problem. Katie McEnany makes Trump seem perfect and make no mistakes. Impossible. All human beings make mistakes, especially Trump. And I think actually that ties in with the next comment. Dango Bango says, U.S. is becoming more and more like North Korea. Well, there it is. I mean, you know that the propaganda person that would go on the TV on North Korea, that's basically Kayleigh McEnany. Like, she's like 3 steps away from claiming that Donald Trump doesn't have an anus. Serious. And then Bengal with another great point here says, our country worships celebs on TV over docs on PC. I made it rhyme. Excellent. The thing that I thought of there was, I know anybody who's watched Avatar, not the movie Avatar, but like the series, it reminds me of Ba Sing Se, where you had this woman, Judy, that basically is like, there's nothing wrong here. There's no war. There's no war outside. Yeah, there is. We just went through it. Nope. There's no COVID out there. Doesn't exist. Nope, not in here. Not in America. Yeah. That's what we're living in. Disaster. Okay. Anyway, let's move on. Let's get into some of the stories here, including Donald Trump and Puerto Rico. He doesn't have an anus. He is the anus. Nice one. In the wake of the devastating hurricane that destroyed much of the island territory of Puerto Rico, Donald Trump was faced with a crisis that he was evidently unprepared for. But he had an idea. Why don't we just pass the buck to someone else by literally selling the island? I'm not kidding. This is according to the former acting Homeland Security Secretary Elaine Duke, who, by the way, she is a registered Republican, a very conservative one, and generally agrees with Donald Trump on the issues. Even then, she's like, yeah, he literally tried to sell the island of Puerto Rico. Now, here's her quote on this. The president's initial ideas were more of as a businessman. You know, can we outsource the electricity? Can we sell the island? You know, or divest of that asset? Okay, look, Puerto Rico, it's a territory filled with American citizens. These are Americans. You can't just sell it off like it's a building that isn't making money anymore. No, these are American people whose lives were destroyed. And by the way, saying like, man, I don't really want to pay to fix that. We don't really care about it anymore. Can we just sell it? I mean, come on. That's Donald Trump. Jesus. I mean, the racism is actually really apparent because he wants to sell it off because he sees no value in having Puerto Rico as a U.S. territory. No value. And of course, you know why, right? Oh, it's full of those people. Those people that was quite convinced probably up to a certain point that weren't even American to begin with. I mean, this is sickening, man. Absolutely sickening. I mean, only thinking of the island as a commodity and the people not even as human beings worthy of being an American, or as not as American as the people in Texas, right? Sick. Now, Duke, who took the helm at the Department of Homeland Security after John Kelly left to become White House Chief of Staff, told the New York Times the possibility of selling Puerto Rico was, quote, never seriously considered or discussed after Donald Trump floated the idea. I can imagine, right, in the meeting, Donald Trump just like spitballing these dumbass ideas over and over again, like, can we just nuke a hurricane? Yes, that's something that he actually threw out there during a meeting. Why don't we nuke a hurricane? Why don't we just sell the island? Oh my God. I mean, what a horrible idea, right? Look, and this is an absolute tragedy, by the way, because look, nearly 3,000 people were killed from that storm. But look, Trump has zero empathy for the people that died, for dead American citizens. Coronavirus has killed over 140,000 Americans, and there's basically no sympathy. He doesn't give a damn about that. He only cares about his reelection chances. That said, back to Duke, right? So now there's a little bit of internal drama between her and Mick Mulvaney. Now she said she recalled calling for an emergency declaration before Hurricane Maria made landfall. However, then Director of Office of Management and Budget, Mick Mulvaney, told her to stop, quote, being so emotional. Emotional. Holy sexism, Batman. You're gonna go tell a woman, oh, don't call an emergency declaration. Stop being so emotional. It's just Puerto Rico. I mean, seriously. He also allegedly added that it's, quote, not about the people, it's about the money. Well, of course it is. I mean, to someone like Mick Mulvaney, it's never been about the people. It's always been about the money and how much money he can siphon off the government. Did you know, by the way, speaking about money, Hurricane Maria cost an estimated $43 billion And this is actually a range between $43 to $159 billion in damages. But to the Trump administration, Puerto Rico is such a low priority that they, basically refuse to do anything but the bare minimum to help fellow American citizens that live on the island. Again, it really, really is quite sickening. That said, Mulvaney is like, oh, I never said that. Well, I never made such a remark. Quote, my experience with the acting director was that she rarely got anything right at DHS. At least she's consistent. You know what? I believe her over lying ass Mick Mulvaney any day. Fuck that guy. What a POS. And that said, I'm not saying that Duke is any better. Again, you're going to see a quote later on from her that I'm just going to, it's unbelievable. Unbelievable. All right. For one, in response to Duke's interview, which the Times said constituted her first public comments since leaving the administration, White House spokesperson Judd Deere told the paper that Trump has, quote, kept his promise to the American people to reduce illegal immigration. Yeah, by making this a place that no one wants to go because of the virus, secure the border, lower the crime rate, and maintain law and order. He has never wavered in his highest obligation to the American people, their safety and security. Again, tell that to the people of Puerto Rico, whom he absolutely failed in order to protect, and by the way, also threw paper towels at. Now, Duke said Trump's White House put their ideology in politics ahead of policy. She says, quote, there's a singular view that strength is mean, that any kind of ability to collaborate and not be angry is weakness. She said Trump embraces hate-filled, angry, and divisive language that distracts from the real issues. So, again, this is a lifelong Republican. We disagree on policy, but at the same time, she kind of nails it, right? Which makes this next quote absolutely unbelievable. She said in response, to being asked if she could vote for Donald Trump, she says, quote, the decision is a really hard question. But given the choices, I don't know yet. You don't know yet. How are you even still on the fence? I mean, really? As a Republican, Joe Biden is probably the most conservative Democrat other than Michael Bloomberg, right? And he is the presumptive nominee. You got a problem voting for somebody like Joe Biden over Donald Trump? I mean, look, I can understand if you were like, oh my God, I presumptive nominee Bernie Sanders kind of scares me a little bit because of his very sensible approaches to policy, like healthcare. I mean, I really don't want poor people to get healthcare. Well, that sucks. But look, Biden again is an extremely conservative Democrat. How is this even a question at this point? If you're a right winger, if you're a left winger like myself, that would be considered a radical leftist, right? Voting for Biden is like a super hard pill to swallow for us. It really is. And so I can understand a lot of you are probably like, oh God, I really don't want to vote for this guy. And some of you might not. Some of you are talking about going third party. That's not my position. But then again, I'm not going to vote shame anybody. I've already told you guys that a million times. I don't believe in vote shaming. It's never worked. And I don't vote shame in one way. And I hope that those of you who choose to go independent or third party also extend the same courtesy by not trying to vote shame us the other way, especially if our argument basically is damage or harm reduction. So that's our thing, right? So that said, it's amazing how far brainwashing has gone in the Republican Party. Donald Trump's a moron. He is, even in your own words, hate-filled, angry, and divisive, and you still have a problem not voting for him. Maybe it's because you all pretty much agree when it comes to the policy positions, which are, by the way, also hate-filled and divisive. So, once again, proving that the Republican Party is basically a death cult. And the only problem they really had with Donald Trump was the fact that he was so open about it and so transparent. All right. Last story here. So one super chat here I want to read. Again, Dango Pango says, there's no Warren bossing say. The Earth King invites you to Lake Laogai. Oh, no, don't go to Lake Laogai. Don't do it. Don't go to the lake. Bad choo-choo in that lake. All right, anyway. You guys haven't watched the Avatar series, The Last Airbender. You probably should. It's good. It's good stuff. All right, anyway. Moving on. Last story. As the economic fallout from the coronavirus pandemic continues, an alarmingly large amount of households were unable to pay off their rents and mortgages last month. Or I should say, let's start again on that. As the economic fallout from the coronavirus pandemic continues, an alarmingly high amount of households were unable to pay all of their rents or mortgages in July. Now, this comes as the coronavirus pandemic surges to record high levels of infection and deaths. Over 50,000 Americans a day are actually becoming infected with the virus, causing many states to pause some of the reopening plans. Some are threatening to close back up in order to stem the tide of the new infections. Other states are taking a little bit less of an approach. For example, Texas Governor Greg Abbott says, we're not going to have bars serve alcohol, but we're going to keep them open. Great. Nailed it. Now, that's, of course, going to make it impossible for many Americans to be able to work and pay the bills. The additional $600 in federal unemployment benefits are still not being given to people who are eligible, who have filed, but have not received their money. That program ends on July 31st, and the government has not authorized any additional assistance, and they really won't. Now, so how bad is it? According to a survey by Apartment List, an online rental platform, almost a third of all U.S. households, 32%, have not made their full housing payments for July. Now, we're about 2 weeks into July. So, look, my mortgage company gives us a grace period of about to the 16th, right? So that's pretty cool. Homeowners actually have it a lot easier when it comes to being able to catch up on missed payments or even have a grace period. You don't have that when it comes to renting. I pretty much rented my entire life, and rent always due in the first. Sometimes they'll give you a grace period to the third, and that's it. Gone. So renters, people that are in this precarious position in industries that have been hard hit by coronavirus, well, I mean, they're not doing well. They're not able to make this. Let me give you some of the numbers here, or more information, I should say. About 19% of Americans had made no housing payment at all during the first week of the month, generally when rent would be due. And only 13% paid a portion of their rents or mortgages, which of course says that, hey, we don't have enough money to make the full payment right now. Maybe we got to wait until our unemployment comes through or something else, but please help us out. Well, they're not getting a lot of leeway, I think, from a lot of different landlords who can be quite strict. I mean, fees, penalties, interest, all this stuff gets layered on people. who can't afford to pay their rent. So now, that said, that is the fourth month in a row that is historically high, or actually has a historically high number of households that were unable to pay their housing bills on time and on full, up from 30% in June and 31% in May. So this is continuing to get actually worse. Horrible, horrible numbers. And of course, it reflects the fact that government has absolutely failed in their responsibility to help the citizenry at least a little bit at a time when it was the government recommendation to close the economy in the first place. So how much sense does it make to close the economy and then say, oh, you guys are on your own? Wait, what? No, you can't do that. Oh, don't worry. We're going to send you a one-time $1,200 check. No, not enough. Do you even understand how normal people have to live? No, of course they don't, because our government's run by millionaires. And really actually run by the billionaires, the corporate backers, and the donors. The donor class has no idea what $1,200 actually buys. Honestly, it pays, if we're lucky, a month of rent. And that's basically it. And you don't have anything else to rely on, to count on. So it's really, really bad. So the economy, by the way, look, a lot of Republicans are like, conservatives like, just go get a job. Don't worry, we're going to have a V-shaped recovery now that businesses are opening up. Oops, looks like coronavirus has kind of ruined that. Not only are businesses shutting back down, or at least some of them, you have a lot of people that are very uncomfortable going out and frequenting these businesses. And so you're not going to do any hiring. And in fact, you're going to do the opposite. You're going to lay people off. And that's what's happening to millions of Americans. I mean, look, some of the biggest industries in the country were hit especially hard. That's hospitality, travel, hotels, dine-in restaurants, movie theaters. All of these coincide with, again, low income and low income rentals, which are being, again, decimated. These people are being crushed because they can't afford it, because they can't go back to their jobs, and they don't have enough money to pay the exorbitant rents that are being charged. And so, look, the fact that they're paid so little, conservatives jump all over that too. And they say, well, that's because we're paying them too much on unemployment. Wait, what? Paying them too much on unemployment? Well, I mean, they're making more not working. I mean, so we should end that program. No, how about we actually pay people? Look, in some places, and it really does vary, because, yes, it's a flat $600 on top of state benefits. But remember, state benefits vary depending on the state. I think there are places like Alabama that you get a total of $265 a week, right? But in places like California, it's somewhere around $500. And so it varies. And in some of the places that give, a decent amount of money, it averages out roughly to about $15 an hour, or a living wage. Why don't we just pay people a living wage? I mean, obviously when they get back to work, right? When they're able to get back to work, that would kind of solve the problem of people making more money off the unemployment benefits than their actual job. Yes, pay people more. I know, it's crazy. But here's what the conservatives are doing. They're basically using this talking point. I've seen it everywhere, where you're pitting essential workers who have been given next to nothing, by the way, and really deserve to have some sort of hazard pay or some sort of extra benefit. I know they had them for a very, very short time, but they need more. They deserve more because they're put themselves at risk, right? They've been pitted against the unemployed. So now you got rich people pitting poor people against other poor people, people that are unemployed versus people who are essential, who are still not getting enough money and wages, and they're just going to let them fight it out. While they, of course, get trillions of dollars in bailouts. I mean, you look at who got, these paycheck protection loans. Companies that have no business getting these loans, personal friends of Donald Trump, these companies who, when they're caught, they're like, oh, no, we'll give it back. We'll give it back. Sorry. And that's the dirty trick, right? Look, everybody deserves a living wage. If you're essential, you should totally get something more. I'm also in favor of a UBI. We need $2,000 a month, UBI, along with a rent freeze and a mortgage freeze. Basically, if we're going to ask people to stay home, stay inside, and not work, which is what you would want to do during a pandemic in order to contain the pandemic, okay, then you need to start paying people to do that. Because understandably, there are people that are like, I can't stay in. I want to stay in, but I can't because I can't pay my bills. I can't afford to. And also, if you can't afford to pay your rent or your house payment, well, then pretty soon you won't have any place to shelter, to protect yourself and your family from getting coronavirus. You can't do that if you're in the street. And so that's what brings me, of course, to the upcoming disaster. You have renters, low income and younger households, as I mentioned, that are the most likely to miss rent payments, according to Apartment List. In April, May, and June, the majority of missed housing payments were made by the end of the month. Now, that means, of course, like, yes, they were late. They ended up making their payments that forestalled their evictions. However, almost 90% of households had paid some or all their rent by the end of June, but with the late fees tacked on, those households are more likely to miss their next housing payment, which is the perpetuation of a vicious cycle. Because again, if you're paying all these late fees, well, then that's less money you have to actually pay for rent. So the report noted that delayed payments in 1 month are a strong predictor for missed payments in the next. 83% of households who pay their May housing in full and on time also did so in June. Only 30% of their households who were late in May did so in June. That's bad news. All of this is bad news. I mean, you've got rental protections that are also running out all over the country. And in some places they already have, which you've seen a gigantic spike in evictions going back to, for example, the story that we did on Milwaukee, right? So Milwaukee, they saw a 42% increase in eviction in places filing to get people evicted in court, right? Like a couple of weeks after their moratorium on eviction ended, up 42%. That's a disaster. And the renters who are especially vulnerable are the ones, again, in those low wage, low income industries. About 36% of renters who worked in those industries devastated by coronavirus missed their July housing bill, compared to about 30% of homeowners. If Congress doesn't do something and do something fast, it's going to be a disaster. Why? Because this is like the 2008 housing crisis, met the 1921 economic crash, met the 1920 influenza pandemic. All of those things are crashing together, all with an orange man in power twist. And the worst part is we know how to handle this. We know how to take care of this. And it's not like we don't have the resources to do so. The only problem is the government doesn't want to do what's necessary. Politicians on both sides refuse to enact a uniform nationwide eviction moratorium that covers all renters. They refuse to freeze mortgages. They refuse to do a temporary UBI until unemployment returns to pre-crash levels. And it will, much faster if we take these economic steps, we'll return to normal. Unfortunately, again, we're not doing that. We also need a mandatory mask requirement because, come on, guys. In public places, I know, freedom, right? Why we got to make it mandatory? Because you know what? Some people in this country do not have the personal responsibility to do their part in protecting themselves and others. And they're selfishly putting the country at risk. And guess what? They're hurting the economy. Not wearing masks costs the country $1 trillion. That's what it's going to cost. they're making poor choices. They're making poor choices. And I know, and I see these ridiculous arguments everywhere, right? I mean, Jesus. There are people that are like saying that, oh no, this is masks are just a form of control. Like, I don't care about your life, Karen. Do I really want to control your fucking life? I don't give a damn. No, the only thing that I want is to not have your dumbass infect me at the grocery store when I'm out there shopping for toothpaste. Wear a damn mask. Jesus Christ. I mean, look, we got to figure out what's going on, right? I mean, in regards to the coronavirus strategy, we got to do it. I mean, we don't have a choice. We don't have a choice, folks. We can't keep being the stupid country. In seriousness, though, we have to do something. We have to aid the renters. We have to aid the homeowners, and we have to aid the economy, or else things are going to get even worse, and we're going to have needless, untold suffering. And unfortunately, I think untold, needless suffering is exactly what we're going to get. Jesus. All right. We're about basically out of time here. There's one super chat urging me to read The Conquest of Bread and Mutual Aid. Okay. I mean, I'll see what I can do. I know that there's a lot of, I think there's actually a section of YouTube that's dedicated to that called BreadTube. So I'll check some of those videos out as well. Oh man. One more comment here. Nika, not your concern, says I'm in my car in 100 degrees to get a test while wearing my mask because my asshole landlady may have exposed me. I'm so sorry. That sucks. I hope you come back negative. I do. Mask it. Don't want to be in a casket. That's another one. All right. That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you for going around the nation with me today. Please like and share the stream. Thank you for all the super chats and for the great conversation. Thank you for your support as always. I love you guys. Thank you, and remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good one.
Mike Pounds.
Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
Tolerate.
You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.